Hi everyone, welcome back to another Serger Tip Clip. One of the very first tip clips I ever posted was about gathering a differential feed, and it showed how easy it is to gather with a 4-thread overlock. But if you're working on a machine that has tension knobs, dials, or buttons, you can actually change the amount of gathering you get significantly by adjusting your needle tensions up or down. So I'm going to show you a few different samples. They're all cut the same length, and the settings are just a little bit different on the needle tensions, and you'll be amazed at how different they are. To stay up to date on Serger Tip Clips, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the little bell, and that will alert you when I post a new tip clip. And I love having you subscribe and tell your friends about it too. Let's go over to the table and take a look at those samples and see how different needle tension can make your gathering. Before we look at those samples, let's take a look at the machine so that we're all on the same page and know how to adjust those tension dials or knobs correctly. This is the Bernina L850. It's a 4-thread overlocker. So you have the left needle, right needle, upper looper and lower looper tension adjustments here. And you can see that the default or normal balance setting on the tension dials is shaded in gray. And most machines have this little designation as a help for you so that you'll know what the correct default or normal tension setting is on your machine. And so these are all set for a 4-thread balance stitch right now. But let's move in, and I do not have to adjust the upper or lower looper tensions at all for gathering. It's strictly a matter of adjusting the two needles, the right and left. So I'm going to move in a little bit closer so that you can see that. Just as it is with your sewing machine, adjusting those needle tensions to a lower number will loosen the needle tension. And going above the default or normal setting, it will tighten them. And that's exactly what we did on the samples. So I just wanted to be sure that you're aware of that. And again, for most typical gathering, you will use a 4-thread overlock if you're not using it in covered or chain stitch mode. But for today's sample, we are in overlock mode. And so you can go all the way up. The highest tension on this is 9. And you'll see what an amazing difference there is when you go all the way up to 9 for gathering. So now it's time to go take a look at those samples. I have 5 pieces of quilting weight cotton all pinned to my cutting table, and I did that so that we'd have an accurate look at each one. The bottom one that's closest is just the strip of fabric prior to doing anything to it, and you can see it's exactly 20 inches long. The next one up, this one, all I did was take that 20-inch strip and I raised my differential feed to 2. I have my stitch length on 3.5, and I wrote all of these down so that I wouldn't mix up anything. And I left all of my tension settings on the default or normal settings. And the strip of fabric with just a change of the differential feed up to 2 went from 20 inches to 15.5 inches. It's a nice soft little gather if that's what you want. Then on the next one, what I did was I cranked up those tensions on my 2 needles to 6. And that piece went from 20 inches and it gathered up to be 13.5 inches. So it's a little bit tighter gather, not super tight, but nice. And all of the differential feeds are always on 2, and I left the stitch length on 3.5 so that we would have an accurate comparison of strictly changing the needle tension. Now, on the next one, this was basically a 2-to-1 ratio, and I cranked up my needle tensions to 7.5, and the 20-inch strip of fabric gathered up to be half the length to 10 inches. So you can see the gathering is getting tighter as I'm tightening the tension on those needle threads. And then, this is incredible. This is the exact same length of fabric to start. It's 20 inches. And I had the right and left needle tensions all the way up to 9. And this gathered up to be 6.5 inches. It's a really tight gather, but wow, is it pretty. In fact, that I pulled the pin out by accident. Sorry about that. But you can see how the needle tension can really affect the way you gather. So if you have fabric that you want a super tight gather on, a 2-to-1 ratio, which is pretty nice, a little bit softer, lighter still for the gather, softer still, and right back down to the flat fabric. Now you know that by adjusting those needle tensions, you can change that around to be exactly the way you want it to look. So I hope that's helpful to everybody, and it's really kind of fun to play around with it. One other thing that I wanted to mention about gathering on sergers is that sergers gather best on light to medium weight fabrics. If you're working on something like an upholstery weight velour or a very stiff or heavy denim, you might find you get better results using your sewing machine and traditional methods of gathering. But sergers are fantastic for getting really nice, even gathering on those light to medium weight fabrics. Thanks for joining me today. And as always, if you have a question, just post it below the tip clip and I'll get back to you quickly. And if you have any suggestions for future tip clips, I'd love to hear them. So stay safe and well and keep on stitching, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for joining me.